Yo, what's good everybody? Welcome back to another Shamshir sound video. You know what time it is? It's time for some Feedback Friday action. So got some nice amount of demos for today's video. So I'm really excited, really stoked to check out your guys' beats. And a couple of cool things I want to talk today about, one of which I bought Ummet Ozcan's synth. So super excited to try that out, Genesis Pro. And expect a review and some more videos coming from that. So if you don't know about that, check it out. But I'm going to be making some videos regarding that. And secondly, my SoundCloud Pro. I think I'm going to make a video. Let me know if you guys want to see a video about SoundCloud Pro, because I kind of feel like it's a scam. It's imagine if YouTube, you hit a limit for how many videos you could upload, and then you had to pay to create content for them. Like, we're literally giving them content. So I didn't let my Pro subscription renew. Now it does hide a lot of your old songs, but they will be revealed if you pay again. So I don't know. Let me know in the comments. Is Pro worth it? Is it not worth it? Because I see like guys like John Christian and professionals who don't even care about SoundCloud Pro. And I feel like the monetization has just been terrible. So they really shift the cost over to the artist. But anyways, I'm not going to ramble too much over SoundCloud's flaws. Let's jump right into it. And if you guys are enjoying this series, you know what to do. Give that smash to that like button. Oh, yes. Anyways, let us go into the demos. So first demo is from Revine and Luceat. Revine, Progressive House. I did make sure I log into my Opera browser so I can follow you guys back. And let's get started, you know what I'm saying? Slap on the Odysseys.
Sun beats down on a lonely town, a couple miles away from you. I saved your message on my telephone, hoping it'll get me through. At times my words aren't right, but you know where I am tonight. I'll be flicking through pictures of yesterday, alright.
So I like this idea. The drop is cool. You got this like emotional kind of width, and it's wide. I like the idea you were going for. There's a couple things that I think could be improved. One was here. So one thing I want to discuss is the reverb on his voice. I don't know if it's your voice or if it's the second person, Luceat. But nonetheless, I feel like the voice is clashing with those wide sounds. Let me hear. So the vocal, you know, the vocal's going out and there's reverb on the vocal, but there's those pianos that are also wide with their own wetness. So those are clashing with the vocal. So it's taking away from the stage of the vocal. What do I mean? So when the vocal is like playing out and that reverb is nice and spacious and creating depth, it needs a little bit of less going on. It needs a little bit of silence. It needs a contrast. Sometimes with vocals, less is more. If you low pass something or you have minimal elements, and Kashmir talks about this a lot, how the vocal, you want to be careful of not putting too much when the vocal is speaking with the big reverb, because when you hear that reverb is what gives it that huge pedestal, the stage. So be careful with too much clutter when the vocal is playing back, especially just with the leveling, or if you want to low pass it or remove an item from it.
Miles away from me.
One thing too is like at first I had some like good interpretation of the vocal. I'm like, okay, cool. It sounds like cool. But here in this chunk, I felt like it was going off key, or almost like I don't even want to say off key, but the melodies are clashing. Either if maybe there was a lack of inspiration and maybe it was just forced, or maybe you just tried to quickly put together the piano. I don't know what came first, the melody or the vocal.
It's alright, but you know what I am tonight.
Like those ending chords, da, 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 da. There's a little bit of a clash. Maybe it's something very small that needs to be corrected.
I'll be flicking through pictures of yesterday, alright.
That duh, I don't know if that's the right ending chord. You might have wanted to do
Yesterday, alright.
dun dun, like if you wanted to make it more upbeat, more happy, dun 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 dun, instead of dun dun, because that dun is that it's ending on that negative note, and it might not suit the mood of the song. Now, of course, I'm butchering it when I'm explaining it, but I think you'll understand it more when you're working on it. This cool idea that you did for the build up with the low pass. I think there was an area here that it was like too bright. My Odyssey LCD2 headphones, they're pretty flat. So for me to hear a really bright mix, if I listened to it on some Sennheisers or something, it would probably be very sharp. It would probably have a lot of brightness to it. So be careful with the brightness. Brightness is one of those things that it can be really overbearing and sometimes just be very difficult listening to. Good old Kashmir fill. It's okay to use Kashmir fills. I mean, if it works, it works. But that's definitely a really overused fill by producers. There's a good amount of frequencies in the drop. I'm hearing the kick. I'm hearing that, ooh, you know, I mean, I'm hearing that lead. The clap is kind of suffocated, but as is the case with EDM, usually the clap on the 2 and the 4, or snare, is usually, you know, lower level and heavily high passed. But just be careful. It's sometimes difficult to get it to blend into progressive house. As with another case on a previous Feedback Friday, I would probably say check out my track Pineapple. I know that track has it has a good progressive house vibe, so I would probably maybe model that, or maybe even listen to some Deadmau5 or something just to get you inspired. The kick is nice. It has like a punchiness to it. It's the drop is decent. Let's continue listening. I would say maybe because when you work with 30-second drops, there is more pressure to make fills and things more exciting. And I think I'll show that when I release this project I'm working on. It's a big room drop where I made the kick in massive, and I'm just going to give you guys all the assets. So what I'm saying is that when we work with like a time constraint, there's more pressure to make sure that we engage the listener. And I don't think that you went too crazy with the fills here. know if that's Ollie James fill or Jackson Vega fill, but sometimes fills can be not fitting. You'd be surprised. Sometimes it can be a banger fill, but it doesn't work for the track that I'm working on or you're working on. So you gotta always think outside the box.
Bright as the stars align in the shape of you. Beautiful mama that I love.
So overall, this is a good idea. You might be able to come back to this and improve it, and never take this, guys, as like 100%. This is, of course, music is subjective. There's a combination of science and art and opinion and everything going into play. Couldn't tell you how trash the first song I ever made was, like Angry German Kid meme remix. Like, you guys can go online and find that stuff. Let's see, Metal Gear Solid. So like, this was from what, 2010, 2009? You know, some cheesy Nexus, like, it was okay, like, first time, but definitely it was cheesy. There was even older than that, and wow. I wish I still had it as like a library to go back to. But nonetheless, the summary for this is, I would say, be careful with the brightness, be careful with the vocal, with the reverb, clashing with very wet elements. Instead, reduce those elements, maybe create ambiance, like a quiet, like, you know, environment, and then that reverb can shine. Maybe the vocal just won't fit. Maybe the vocal will just, I can't tell you how many times I tried to get like my brother to sing on drop a vocal or take a vocal, and it just didn't work because the song was already made without a vocal in mind, and the vocal just kind of robbed energy from it. So again, experiment and take those tips and keep it up. And thank you for sending the track, Revine. Appreciate it. Let's move on to the next demo. This one is by Ved. Hey. Sweet. Let's have a listen. I'm already liking this. It's very like not common, and that's what's super sick when we do wild stuff. It totally caught me off guard. I didn't expect a drop there, because this is like building a build up. 3, 2, 1, let's go. But I feel like this kick doesn't have the power. There's more power here. There's like more power with that. The sub, the elements building up to it. You have a dope idea. You have this kind of like stadium, kind of Kashmir arena audience, you know, chants, warriors kind of thing vibe that you want to do. But you might have to focus a little bit more on structure and referencing. I can't really highlight how important referencing is, because referencing, the blueprint doesn't lie. The blueprint just shows us what we're hearing. It is what it is, you know. And it ends like right after, so the listener is anticipating something, but it's kind of jarring, and there's that fine line between predictability and not being predictable. And when it's extremely not predictable, it just becomes chaotic and it doesn't have order. So that's why predictability can help a lot, and that's why a lot of songs are so successful, because they're predictable to some extent. So, I mean, this is a cool little project that you're working on. I would just continue working on it, change that kick, or work on that kick, because I don't feel like it's complementing it well. Like I made in that video, the 20 EDM tips that I released just a few days ago. Dada Life said, like, you can have a great kick that in theory it works, but in reality it just doesn't work that well. So maybe just go through a little bit more percussion, find what will work, and I would say reference. But keep it up, Ved. Thank you for sending it. It sounds clean. I don't know what you're working on, but it sounds clean. So in terms of the frequencies and whatnot, stuff doesn't sound like over driven and driven to oblivion, because I would do that. I still sometimes do that. So just focus on reference and focus on creating song structure to give order. And the big one, just change up that kick. Maybe find something that has a little bit more like ooh, 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 more body, instead of having it too high of an octave. The kick sounds like it's robbed of some subsonic frequencies. But appreciate it. Thank you, Ved, for that. And let's move on to the next one. This one is, the second demo by Ved. So this one's called Dance. I thought I followed. Oh, okay. It's just troll. It's just the tab. Let's play this one back. Really cool vocal chops. Really like the snap there, and I like the ambiances that you have in the background. I like this. Cool idea. Again, we can see a similar symptom of like it's the structure, but I think as you work on songs more and more, and as you build more experience, it'll just come naturally to you. There's one thing, I was reading a book, and I'm gonna make a video about this, but I'm studying UX design, product design, UI and UX, both to have a separate career, but also to benefit me and my own endeavors, combination. And the book I was reading talked about mastery, of how when we do something so often, it becomes unconscious. It just becomes automatic. So a lot of times when we're in our first few days of just playing something or opening a synth, it's so intimidating. We consciously think about it. But as we build more experience, those actions become unconscious, right? When I fire up FL Studio and going, it's just automatic. So I really like this vocal that you have. I like this ambiance. It's evidence that you have an ear for melody. Just continue to work on your sound more and give structure. Because it's going from one to the next, but not in the contemporary, like modern format. And that's not a bad thing, but if you wanted to give it a little bit more structure, I would again really highlight the importance of referencing a song, just so you can get that idea of the sound you're trying to achieve. Because like Kashmir said, it's totally okay like to copy and interpret. Now, not like copy and paste. I'm not saying to take someone else's track and upload it, because dumbasses have done that in the past. We've seen that. I'm talking about just having a point of reference, right? When you're drawing something, it's very hard to draw someone with on your canvas if no one's there. You're just using your imagination. But if someone's there, you have a point of reference and you can draw them more easily. And so this is pretty good. Like I said, again, the mix is sounding clean, but it sounds like you're just gonna have to work more on structure. So thank you, Ved, for this one. And we're moving on to the next one. God Maker. Illuminati. Illuminati. That's an interesting photo you chose. God Maker Actress. My 8th track. Hope you enjoy. Lo-fi hip-hop. Let's take a look.
God Maker.
Straight off, just be careful with the intro stuff. If you're trying to do like a Metro Boomin 4 or 8 bar, keep it simple, but like be careful with those resonating frequencies, like here, that click or whatever is going on there, because when driven really loud on like a Bose system or something, it could be extremely like displeasing to hear, and it could distort very easily. So the structure seems off-putting, and I don't know if you have some problems with the melody, but if you wanted, that's when the snare is expected, but instead it's a bit displeasing because it's like moved backwards or forward, like like the snare is, it's the percussion, the layout of it is just, in my brain, it's sounding like quote unquote wrong. Like it sounds like it needs to be changed up. And that I don't know what you were, I don't know what the vibe was. Like, let me know in the comments what the vibe was the aim with this one. Because you could have kept it really simple. Start with 4 bar or 8 bar. God Maker. Right? Use your vocals always, because it's the most powerful instrument to convey the feeling that you want to do. But I think the idea that you want to go with is dope. You want to keep you're trying to do like a grimy lo-fi, like low fidelity sound, dark piano kind of ambiance, but I think the way it was approached might have ruined the song. So I would say just try and switch up the structure, like how I said, right? Get some hats in there, your 808s. I've made some trap. Of course, you can check out some of the ones that I've made, but I would definitely say like the structure is really what needs to be worked on. The melody seems a little bit off-putting, especially when it goes up with that piano. I think the beauty of trap music and how successful it's been is its minimalism. We think about tracks when we hear the 808, we hear the hats, we hear the snare. The vocal is really driven in the center, and we have ad-libs on the sides. So really, when I was making trap music, I was listening to a lot of Metro Boomin, Future. I was listening to like a variety of stuff. Who else? Migos. I was listening to Lil Pump. I was listening to a lot of stuff. So just comes down to like listening and implementing stuff from your references. But keep it up, Godmaker. Thanks for sending the track. Wait, no, you're not following me. You gotta follow me, man. I don't know. Here, I'll give you the follow anyways. Next one is by Bassick and Sandr. I think Bassick sent some stuff in the past, so he sent us a new one, a new ID. Let's go, dude. 3, 2, 1, let's go. Big room in a nutshell. Okay, let's go. I'm getting tropical vibes. Latino in the bar, the dun dun dun. It sounded good. Let me just hear this part here again. One thing I want to say before I get too distracted here, everything I heard here is quite solid. Don't really have any critical statement to say about it here though. Just be careful with the stagnation of that snare drum. And what do I mean by that? Stagnant being that if it's like it's too the same. So either maybe you could create a little bit of like more modulation. I think you're doing that. Yeah, so it's going up. Maybe a little bit of wetness doesn't hurt, just a tiny bit on the snare, just so it's not too dry. Why do I say that? Because when percussion is in the real world, we hear the reflections and we perceive that in our brain. In the DAW world, in the FL Studio world, whatever, Ableton, whatever you're using, the reverb needs to be put on, like a convolution reverb or a digital reverb is very effective at this. Hardwell talks about this, because when the reverb's not on there and it's super dry, what ends up happening is that your brain knows that it's not part of the real world because it's not perceiving that reverb. And so reverb can be used so slightly, like just a few percent, and it won't masquerade your mix, it won't blur the hell out of your mix, but it will give it a little bit of like a position and a realistic existence in the mix. So just a tip there. I really like the toms that you were using there, and I like this fill that you have. The drop, let me hear this. I'm not sure if it's quieter during the drop, like maybe it's my mistake, but I feel like it's a little bit quieter relative to the intro. Maybe just double check the RMS. It might just be my mistake. See here, you want to be careful. The snare drums that you're stacking have been giving more low-end power to the kick, making this part of the drop actually more like woodier, more frequencies in the 100, 200, 300 hertz, as opposed to like this drop here. So how can you remedy this? During this, if you do want to do like, you know, a snare hands up build up towards the next part, high pass works well, or sidechain works well in varying amounts. For the drop, I know you have this like distorted lead that's at a high pitch, so maybe a layer beneath it for the more of the mid frequencies would benefit it to give a more of a full sound, because the sound doesn't feel as full as it could be, as its potential could be during the drop, at least for me. I think you have some whooshes, noise building up in the background, but a strategy that works really well if you want to extend your drop for a long time is either alternating the melodies, having like a dope riser in the background with like a synth, or just switching it up. So sometimes keeping the same melody going for a long time can really, it can end up being not so exciting. Because here we start for the drop. You really push that out. Instead of normal 30 seconds or 45 seconds, you push that out for a minute. Have a listen to my track, Light It Up. I think I did a minute drop, but notice what I did. There's some nuances in that track where I put some risers and really gave it some energy. And I think that will give you the inspiration, Bassick. So check out Light It Up. Hopefully it's still on my SoundCloud. And notice how like the synths are cool. I like that like kind of synth that you're having going there. The melody for the break is nothing complex. I would probably have tried to make it more compelling and telling more of a story. It's pretty simple. But again, that snare drum I would definitely make that snare drum just a little bit wet. If you want to be lazy, you could throw on an endless smile and just give it a few percentage. Alternatively, you could throw on fruity reverb on there, short decay, not too long of a decay, not too short, and just give it like maybe, you know, give or take 1 second, or maybe, you know, and high pass that reverb in a small amount of percentage. I think the melody of the break might not be playing with what you have in the drop. It might be two different keys. So I don't know if Sandr just like put together this and then you glued back the drop, but you got to make sure that everything is harmonious. Like Spectrasonics says, transitions are the hardest things to do because you're going from one part to the next. So just pay a lot of attention to that. So those are my tips for that, is really just see what you can do to improve more frequencies in the drop, give it a more full feeling. The snare drum, I would recommend, it has more wetness. The break melody is, the sounds are good, and like Lazy Rich said, sometimes you have good sounds but not a great melody. Sometimes you have a great melody and not a good sound. So overall, this is a well-made structure. I don't know if I would have went so long with the drop, maybe 45 seconds or maybe 30 seconds. But you guys just take a look at my track Light It Up. I think it will give you a lot of light to the situation. No pun intended. So appreciate it, Bassick. Keep working, keep at it. Never stop. Never stop the fucking rave. Thanks for the track, guys. Let's move on to Archer by Parth Sharma. I think Parth sent us a dope track. I'm trying to remember if it was like the one track, but anyways, it's cool artwork. I like this. Some centaur action. Let's go ahead. Age of Mythology. Let's go. I think, if I'm not mistaken, let me know. I think you sent this track in a previous one, but I guess you improved it. And if I remember, if my memory is correct, it sounds like you've made some decent improvements to this. The sounds are fuller. The kick sounds dope. Of course, the mix could be louder, but that's a mastering thing. Don't worry about that. It's really important for us to have creativity and the sounds down before we really focus on, oh, my track must be super loud, because we can always make our track louder. So it's sounding dope. Yeah, I remember you sent this track, so you've made improvements to this. The break has been improved. You've improved these drums playing back. I think you've added some more elements and made it less empty during the break. The lead is very like retro. It's very old school. You know, it reminds me of like party rock anthem. It's not a modern lead, and that's not a bad thing, but it's like old school synth sound. I think the kick could be driven, or maybe it's just the whole mix could be louder. So maybe it's the kick, maybe it's the mix. But you've made improvements to this, and it's evident. It's evident. I can hear the break has been improved. The sounds are more full. I don't know if you changed the kick, but it sounds more full during here. So my tips would be really to focus on the kick. Listen to your mix in mono. Sorry guys, I just had to close the door. Listen to your mix in mono, and just listen to see how that kick is punching through the mix. Maybe if you, let's see. It's very mono kick, which is fine. I think it could benefit from a little bit of attack, a little bit of transient. So maybe like transient master could be a good method of boosting the transient of the kick. Second thing I'd say is that the leads are very mono, and that's okay, but maybe see if you can give some width to the leads, because the song is very center. It's very narrow. At least this part is. We have more width here with the cymbals and the vocals, the ethnic vocal, but the drop is very narrow. So be careful with that, because when the drop is very narrow, it can make it seem less depth, at least compared to the rest of the song. But your ideas have clearly improved, and you've clearly added better implementations, so good for you for improving it. I think this has potential, and just be mindful of how your song sounds in mono. Be mindful of the kick. Is it punching through the mix? And look at width. So take a look at like Isotope Ozone Imager on the master, or even Voxengo Span. But Voxengo Span's stereo visuals, they don't really do a good job. So at showing you a good depth. So look at a nice spectrum analyzer and look at something that shows you like Imager. So you can see, is the mix too mono? And don't go ahead and just widen the whole mix. See what you can do to just make maybe the lead a little bit a wide layer, maybe in the background. It can be Nexus or something, or you can even pan some drums or something. But overall, you've definitely improved this, and I look forward to some future stuff. Thanks, man. Yeah, it could definitely have more power, like more bass, mob body in the drop. But anyways, this has been improved, and it's I think it's a improvement from the previous that you sent. So this is the last Feedback Friday track. This is from Bassick, and if I remember right, I think Bassick sent me. I'm trying to remember which track that I checked from Bassick. But anyways, this is a new one, Alladin. Let's have a look, listen, look. It's definitely got that minor Arabic tone to it. This is sick. I really like your intro. I like how you introduce the melody, making your intro recognizable. I like the FX elements that you have in here. It gives an ambiance and glues together everything and giving it motion, a swish type of effect. I like that panning effect that you have here. I think you can really give tons of power to this drop, Bassick, by maybe even trying like just do an experiment, but trying like a dark fill. Dun 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 dun. Pow, and then just, you know, something that's like not too bright going into the drop. But let's have a listen again here. Because that reminds me of like old school like Sandro Silva, like old Quintino. It's a cool sound, and I like the melody that you have, but just maybe try something that's more minimal before the drop. Maybe it's just like right here, da 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 da, and then maybe like some ethnic thing, just so it's kind of like faint, and then pound, that kick with the sidechain lead just hits. If you're ever struggling to make your toms fit in the mix, 2 tips I would say are high pass it, but don't go too extreme. Don't go beyond, like sometimes I'll high pass the toms at like 60 hertz, so they still have their bass frequencies, but not too much subsonic low end. alternatively, and it depends on the tom. If the tom is very clinky and clanky, you could get away with high passing further at like 120 or 100 hertz. But if nothing works, and if those are not options, a subtle pan can also work too. Not too extreme where it's in the way of like wide leads and the side, but subtle. I'm talking like 5 or 6%, 6% right, 6% left, or like 4, 5, 7, 8, or you know, 8% right. And so you could do like 8, 8, 8, 8, and just those subtleties. Kanye West and Travis Scott, I think, were talking about this. Just that subtle panning can open up the mix and allow those toms to speak instead of like clashing with the kick. That's cool. I liked that effect there, the filter, and then coming right into it. Nice job. Yo, good job, Bassick. You've made your structure sick here. It's so optimized. So good job. So I see what you did there. You went for like that Hardwell, add that top layer lead at the second drop. I think the lead could have some brightness. It could have some energy, either with some EQ, maybe boost a tiny little bit. I think it could have a little bit more energy, a little bit more filth. Or instead of EQ, you could also try white noise. A tiny bit of white noise is very effective. So, but you have a pretty solid idea. I think this is your best track yet that you've sent. I guess there is some panning on the toms there. Really nice. I like the drums. I like the kick. I like the build up. I think the only suggestions, if I was being hypercritical, to give would be with that lead. It could benefit from a little bit of air. And I talked about that, how like boosting with EQ or a tiny bit of noise, like very small amount of noise, barely so that it's recognizable, but there. I think the fill, if you try and experiment, don't get rid of it, don't scrap this, but if you just try an experiment maybe before the drop of like something quiet or gentle so that it has a huge contrast and so that you can slam in with that Quintino like Sandro Silva drop, I think it can really give a great power. I like how you had that break very optimized. You know, you wrapped it up, you low passed it, and you began building up here, and you also introduced the kick there, so the structure is good. I think you have a lot of potential with this track, and thank you for sending this in, Bassick. It's a really sick one. The track, the spotlight track of the day, I think the track that wins it for us, which one do you guys think? I think, and there's no winner. We all make great music. We all have great ideas. We're all artists, and it's all internal competition. But today's I think goes to Bassick. I think Alladin. I think this track wins it for me in terms of overall feel and the overall. I like that old school drop. It's something that's like different. So thank you, Bassick, for sending in this track. I appreciate it, brother. And thank you to everybody else that sent in their track today. So next week also there will be Feedback Friday, so long as demos come. And like I said, feel free to drop new ones. Feel free to drop, you know, private, public, whatever you guys want to do. And hope you guys enjoyed this video. It was probably a longer video than normal. If you guys made it this far, appreciate it. Love you guys. And that's pretty much it. That's a wrap. Send in your track, guys, for the next Feedback Friday. And I will see you guys in the next video. Until then, stay subscribed, stay healthy, stay fit, take care of yourselves, stay safe, and I'll see you guys soon. Take care.